speaker on this evening before very elite and educated crowd. And I would like to say this is my first talk to a non-medical crowd, to be very frank. Actually, I have talked to students, I have talked to students, I have talked to my colleagues, I talked to my colleagues, but I have talked to common people. I go for my forum meetings, but first time I am just coming to a formal crowd as a member of the same crowd. Like I was just in a very casual way, I was just thinking my name underwent so much of alterations. I was yes, Prabhudas, Prabudas is till my 11th. Then my father, for numerology, he changed it to G, yes, Prabhudas, he erased H in that and he added DOSS in that for numerology, and it did work out probably. So I went a little long way. In 2001, I was Dr. G.S. Prabhudas. So I thought probably that is my honor, because other than doctors, I think it's very few among society where a prefix usually comes with the name and they're being called with a prefix. And I was thinking probably till my end of the career I'll be called only doctor as my prefix. But after this I was very thrilled because the Rotarian RTN comes before the doctor. So probably it is not an end for the prefix. Or my suffix keeps on adding because I got 8 degrees. I'm just pursuing one more in my career. So probably that will add. But I never thought I will get one more prefix in addition to doctor in my lifestyle to come. I'm much...
PH of then you will have. One more waiting.
I was very happy.
You have to tell him what is PH.
And as per the request, I wanted to keep it in a very common language and in a very simple way, because I find very junior crowd and also very senior crowd in the entire August gathering. So I just wanted to get you across the entire system, how the gastro system is very unique and how the gastro system is I would say it's little superior to the other system. And it is also to be noted that this is one system where you can have a control, you have a little edge over the other systems. Because in case if you don't take your breakfast in the morning or your lunch, the entire day doesn't go as what you wish, be it any system. Your mind doesn't think that way, how bright, it has to be routinely. Or if you take a very heavy meal in your lunch, probably you will not be able to do your routine active office work or even your student life as such. So it is something that every day input that you decide. Nobody forces or thrusts you over this system in particular. And it is the looks and the deceptive way how the food looks at you, and probably how you look at the food is what you will be knowing it. But I wanted to just put you across how the organ in you, that is the esophagus, stomach, I'll just divide you into various stages of your food, how it passes on, how that organ in fact speaks to you, how the organ reacts to the entire food that you take, and how it sends your signs and symptoms. And you probably, I will tell you how to in fact pick up those symptoms and how to be in accordance with that system, and helps you to be little more active, little more productive, and probably live little longer than what you expect that your average age of an Indian should be 70 or 80. Probably with your gastro system you can still prolong it little more further, and it has been proven right, because none of the system has been so controllable, have given so much of your longevity in your life, because none of system you will not be able to control it. So probably I'll just guide you through another 10-15 minutes of your entire system, and this is for the junior colleagues, and this is the medical description, but probably you would have seen in your 10th or 12th grades. This is the food pipe, and food gets swallowed into the food pipe. This is the junction, this is the stomach, and that is the storage organ of your food. That is what everybody thinks. Your digestion starts in your stomach. No, it actually starts in your oral cavity or in your mouth, and after which it enters the small intestine. This is a little descriptive, so it is not the small length, it is about 6 feet of your entire small intestine. 6 to 12 feet is the entire length, jejunum and ileum we call it. After that, the food passes through the large intestine, and this is the exit route or the anal canal. And this is a schematic way which I have taken it to be little more understandable to everybody. The red letter indicates the passage of your food. That is the esophagus, it goes to the stomach, small intestine, it goes to the large intestine. This green color indicates the enzymes, that is the liver and the gallbladder, which secretes the bile. Bile is little green in color, so it is given in your green color. So it joins the junction of the stomach, small intestine passage, and this is pancreas, which secretes its own pancreatic enzymes. It also aids in your normal digestive process. That also joins this part of your intestine, after which it goes to the blue color line, that is the large intestine. There is a difference between the blue and the red color is, till this part of the intestine, there is the liquid and the solid feces all is present till this point of the intestine. After which the blue color, this is entirely the formation of the feces, that is the semi-solid, and the water content in your motion is getting absorbed, and only the solid part comes out of your anal canal. Appendix is a vestigial organ which does not have much say in your digestion. It is just an organ, probably the surgeons friendly, because we get most of our surgical work because of this appendicitis that falls in as an emergency. This is what I wanted to highlight really. There is something called an artificial intelligence for each and every part of your organ, digestive system in particular, which means you don't decide that the 2 idlis that I am taking it as a normal breakfast has to be digested in this manner, the dosa has to be digested in this, and the oily food which I take it has to go in. You don't do anything. You just thrust it inside, after which it is rest to the entire digestive system to digest it in the way how you will be really healthier to go about. So which means the every organ, in compared to a central nervous system which everybody thinks is the center of your intelligence, every organ has its own intelligence. It reacts to the food and it knows what duties it has to perform. We call it as a peripheral nervous system or the autonomous nervous system. There is a terminology existing, but I wanted to put it as something called an artificial intelligence, which makes each and every organ to react and to do its own function. Why I am putting artificial intelligence? The intelligence, it means it will react its own way. It will be happy, it will be sad, it will also frown at you, and sometimes it will weep, and sometimes it will not obey your command. Something is as similar to this. You all might be well aware of this great leader, the Tandai Periyar, who has taught this Suyamariyadai, means self-respect to each and every individual. He meant it very clearly that the individual's self-respect has to be maintained, be it any cadre in the society. Likewise, be it any organ in your body, it has its own self-respect. It craves for its self-respect. It is up to you to respect that particular organ and to give the input that it requires to keep you healthy. If you don't respect it back, I will tell you how it will not respect you and what will be the consequence in the future. And this is what is the beginning of our digestive process, oral cavity. The digestion begins here itself. We have all the salivary glands that get secreted when you take any amount of food. And in fact, even visual appearance of some good looking food also might trigger some of the salivary secretions, which is the first and the foremost beginning of your digestion process. So it is up to you to select your food and the timing you select your food. You should not select your food in an untimely time, or you should not take food that is little hard to digest where you gulp it. Just imagine that oral cavity is one individual. He passes like a relay, he passes it to the next organ, that is the esophagus. Esophagus is an individual. He does his soul, then how does he pass it on to the parcel? The parcel has to be made in such a way that it passes in a happier tone to the next organ, and the organ reaches the goal, and that is your ultimatum, is your life cycle. Like it prolongs the life cycle. How you can damage a really oral cavity is gulping your food very fast, because you are supposed to digest the entire food, masticate it, think about the food that you are taking. Probably in your olden period you would have seen people chanting some mantras, and I don't know the real thing of it, but the real concept is they sprinkle some water, they do their prayers, and after which they take it. In other sense, they realize the food that is taking it, they talk to the organ. For instance, I take this handful of food, probably it might be a prayers to God, but in other ways, you talk to your food, saying that this is a good, healthy looking food. You will know, you are taking your head, you will know whether it's a healthy or unhealthy food. I need not have to tell you which is healthy, which is not healthy. You just talk to your organ, like it's in another way you say that, okay, I am planning to take this food, I am digesting the food, I am going to masticate it, I am going to grind it fully, I am going to pass it out to my stomach, which is going to take a lesser road. But the problem is, we are little forward in any of our attitude, any of your daily routine. We think about the car driving during eating, we think about the office while driving, we think about the next work when you are office work, when you are having your lunch you think about the evening movie, when you are in the movie you think about the next day work. The problem is you don't do the particular work at that particular time. This is very important as far as any organ is concerned, any work is concerned. In the oral cavity, choose your food that is going to be eco-friendly for your oral cavity. Masticate it, chew it, and then pass it on to the esophagus. Esophagus, I'll tell you what is the function. It will be, the oral cavity will be happy because it has done its duty. The next organ which receives the entire food, yes, sir. The next organ also will be relatively happy. So this is what I meant it. Wash your hands, legs before eating. No TV, no chatting during eating, and definitely no mobile phones while eating. Think about your food that you eat, concentrate on your food, chew and you swallow. If you do this, the next organ is esophagus. This is just a picture so that you don't forget the continuity of the entire system. Esophagus is happy because it does not get the bulk food, undigested food that is just gulped in within 2 minutes. There is no award that is given to individual if he gulps the entire plate of food in 2 minutes or 30 seconds, because it is only a burden that you are passing on to the next organ. I will tell you what happens in the next organ. Esophagus is nothing but the passage which pushes the food from the oral cavity to the stomach. That's it. It does not have any protective covering. It does not allow any acidity to come up. It is just a connecting passage. That's it. I will tell you how you are damaging the same connecting passage itself. This happens when you eat so much of spicy food, late hours food, and you sleep immediately after your food intake, and you don't give it the exact time needed for the passage of the food inside the stomach. When the content really raises, when the acidity raises, there is a valve between the esophagus and the stomach. It is a one-way channel. It opens up, after that it closes. As a healthy individual, if you stand even upside down after any full amount of food intake, nothing comes into your esophagus or into your oral cavity, because our system is designed so foolproof. But when this system is getting insulted every day, the valve becomes little weak. So what is the consequence? There is a reflex of the acidity from your stomach to the esophagus. Esophagus, as I told you, does not have a protective covering to acid. So what happens? It hits it back. Esophagus is initially a mild heartburn is there. It speaks to you. See, you are taken some quantity which is above your acidity value of your stomach. You are getting a heartburn. It is paining in your this part, and you don't realize that. What you do is you take a Gelusil, because it is the commonly showed advertisement protocol. You take a Gelusil, the acidity becomes cool. Fine. That is the initial knock that comes from the esophagus. After one time, you are pushing the esophagus to one level, that OG junction or the junction between esophagus to one level, where it really craves your attention. You have to meet a consultant like me to say that I am now not able to take any normal diet itself. Any diet I take is a burning heartburn. Esophagus does not have any heartburn normally, unless and until the entire mucosa is eroded by the stomach acid, which does not erode very normally. It is because the valve has already become weak. The food that has gulped in has overloaded the stomach, which is not able to digest it. The acid content is relatively more, so it has reflexed back. And in our daily day-to-day routine practice, reflux disease is a very common disease that we see in our daily OP. It is because of this unhealthy pattern which you are insulted the stomach and the junction and the esophagus. This is the next organ, which is the stomach. I will tell you how to keep the stomach happy. Okay. So when you are taking a normal food, that half gastric, half emptying time is the time taken for the stomach to empty the half of its content. If you take 4 idlis, it takes half the time to make it as a 2 idli content. It digests the entire thing, makes it as one bulk. That becomes half of the entire food that you have taken from the plate. That is called gastric half emptying time. It is usually 1 hour to 1.5 hours. the entire stomach to empty, it takes 2 hours to 4 hours. That is the reason why it has been designed that morning breakfast, lunch will be little 4 hours gap will be there, so that the entire food goes out of the stomach and it leaves stomach little empty and happy also. But what happens to our daily routine? You take a breakfast which is to be relished, which is to be chosen, which is to be digested, you gulp it faster, then you go to the next 11 o'clock, you have a break in your canteen, you again gulp something which is definitely 11 o'clock, that snacks time is definitely not healthy one. Either you take a tea or coffee and with some unwanted oily food. What happens is the acidity content which is already set in for your morning breakfast is again being craved by the stomach, it pours in some more acid. And by the time the entire stomach gets its food digested, the lunchtime already has put in, which is again the food that is chosen is not definitely is going to help the stomach because the stomach is already little overloaded. Then you are going to take a full stomach meal or a lunch, which is going to overload the stomach again. So the stomach initially it gives a little fullness. Knock knock is it gives fullness. Hello, I am already full. Kindly do not take. But still, you are fascinated by the entire buffet arrangement. You try to gulp everything till the last, and you say dessert is the way to end it. And you take still high calorie fatty food as a dessert to keep. You think that the ice cream will soothe your entire esophagus and the stomach. It doesn't do so. It only adds an extra fat to that. It really overloads the stomach. So what it does, this stomach, the particular organ, it tries to secrete more acids, more digestion. It really tries to grind to some extent. Then it says, hello, this individual is not individual that I should be overworking. He is not a good boss at all. So why should I unnecessarily overwork it? So it just pushes that food and kicks it out to the small intestine. Small intestine is a very long passage and a tube. It is agreed. But thing is, the small intestine has to get the digested complete food into its passage. And as I told you, this is the secretion from the liver, gallbladder and the pancreas. These secretions are mainly to secrete and to digest the fatty food in your daily routine, because the stomach does not secrete anything to digest the fat. So fat is just churned in the stomach, pushed into the duodenum, where the entire secretion acts on that. The entire length of the small intestine is consumed in digesting the fatty food. So it has a little limit to entire, because the entire acidity has to be coated. It pushes to the small intestine. It goes in small segments. The entire fat will be digested. The absorption happens only from the small intestine. So more and more load is given to the small intestine. The more and more nutrients are getting absorbed, and the individual puts on fatty, becomes little heavy, just because the overload is pushed on to the small intestine. Small intestine does not really have the capacity and the capability to churn the food. Initially, it also really takes the load, it works, it helps the individual to digest the fatty food to some extent. After that, when it becomes tired, then it says, there is no use to make this person look slimmer, look more healthier, and why should I spend my energy and my time? So I will just push all the fatty food as an accumulation into his tummy or into wherever possible way I can push him, so that he little becomes obese, and let him go to a consultant or let him go to a doctor, says that I am not able to digest, I am not, the bloating sensation is there, my stomach is growling, my stomach is, and let him go to his own consultant, it is pushing it out. So that is the thing what happens. This is for the stomach. These are the key points to be taken. It is not a garbage bin, so you cannot just push in whatever you like and whatever you want. It is for you to decide what the stomach wants and what it is asking for, then push in the right quantity and the right food that it needs. And probably you can do not, these are the take home points, you can just read this out, and I think you would have read it. I will come to the next part, and I told you what is the role of each and every organ. See, liver. Liver is a very important organ, and we say as how it is heart for a cardio, brain for the neuro. Liver is the organ for the gastro system, because it has 400 and more organ functions to perform, from digestion to your hair growth to your immunity to break down your toxic food substance also. So whatever toxic food that you take along with your daily routine food, For instance, the ethyl alcohol or the normal alcohol, what you take it, that's a medical terminology for that. And any drug that you take, the miseffects of the drug, and any food, if it is little hazardous to the body, it detoxifies the entire system. And it pushes to the small intestine so that entire toxins are secreted and it is absorbed back, or it is nullified and it is sent. But what we do is, we take alcohol in so many forms in your daily routine life, and it is my statement here in this forum, alcohol in any form, any quantity is definitely bad. Probably I can say smelling is okay because I can take it because I am a teetotaler, I have never tasted, I have never smelled, I have smoked in my life till date. So I would say smoking is definitely hazardous because passive smoking is relatively bad even for a non-smoking person. So what happens when you take more of this alcohol, and when it goes into your general system, liver spends most of its time to just break down this alcohol and try to detoxify it and push it in such a way that it is little healthier for the general individual. That is why it is said that a small quantity of alcohol is little better and all this stuff. But as and when the more load goes into this stomach, liver also gets tired of it. It initially will give you all this bloating sensation, little pain in your right side of your chest, and it will keep giving you symptoms, and you are in your fascinated, euphoric world. You keep on giving your input with this more quantity of alcohol. At one time, liver also said, fine, this individual is not worth living. In spite of my own death, I will stop my functioning, and it relatively stops its function. And that's why you end up in an alcoholic cirrhotic liver, blood vomiting, and all the complications, because it is said that liver is a regenerative organ. 1/8 of the liver size is enough for the particular individual's entire function. We say it because even when you do a liver cancer, when we cut the liver out, we cut half of the liver, only half is remnant. After a few years, we find that the entire liver bed is overgrown by the remaining half liver, which comes and occupies the entire space occupied by the normal liver, and it takes back the function. So it is a very good organ which is having so much of regenerative capacity, and it can really take up your entire lifestyle toxins to its own, and it gives you a little more life that you ought to live more. But we voluntarily overload the liver. We push it to one extent where it weeps, then it stops, then it frowns. It says, fine, my work is over because you don't respect me, I stop my function. So you end up in all these things. And this gallbladder is a very fascinating organ which is present just below the liver. Every night the gallbladder area where it collects is little away from gravity. We also don't know how the bile gets collected in the gallbladder. It is still a question that is not answered by the scientific forum also. Because the organ is never like this. It is like this. But overnight, the drop by drop bile gets collected in the gallbladder. It increases in size. The moment the small bowel reaches the fatty food, the gallbladder gets its stimulation from the brain. It pushes all the bile, splashes it onto the fatty food, and the fatty food gets digested. It is for it to pump it for one time when there is one time fatty food, because after that it takes nearly 6 hours for the bile to get accumulated. See, what we do is every 4 hours when we keep on taking fatty food, the gallbladder tries to push in the remaining bile that is there, because it is bound to push or it is bound to contract. More and more it contracts, it is not able to do it, and as you have already started to insult the liver, the bile has already become thick. So what happens, the thick bile stores in the gallbladder, and the remaining bile that is present in the gallbladder forms a stone. That is the predominant reason why people end up with a gallstone, because the bile is not thin. Thin bile is a healthier bile. As and when the liver function retards down, the bile becomes thick and it gets accumulated in the gallbladder and it forms a stone. And stone leads to its obstruction and gallbladder calculi and all those medical things. Probably you can just browse it in the internet. So how you can keep the gallbladder a little happy is, you take your food at that particular interval, which is a fatty food. That is why even in your daily routine dieting, we will advise you calorie diet of a carbohydrates or a small snacks, eat at regular intervals, like sundal or sprouted or salads. it can be taken even 6 to 7 times in an entire day, because gallbladder doesn't function on the salads, doesn't function on your sundal or your biscuits. Only when a fatty food enters, it will pump in. It takes at least 6 hours for the entire bile to accumulate and again pump it back. So when you take a morning food, it doesn't really pump in, because probably morning you would be taking idli with oil, with a podi or something. It only pumps this bile that is required. Lunch is definitely a very heavier form of your food. But in between, when 11 o'clock, when you go for a pizza or a burger, the gallbladder thinks that fine, our fatty food already come, it pumps in. So next time when your normal routine lunch, heavy lunch, which you take it in a day comes, gallbladder does not have a bile to go. Liver also doesn't have the bile. So the food reaches the small intestine without all these nutrients or the ingredients which is required to digest your heavy meat. So it does not happen. So it pushes to small intestine. As I said, small intestine, how it reacts after a particular time interval. So that is the problem that everybody faces in day in and day out. And this pancreas is one organ that converts your general sugar that is available in your food and stores it as a glucagon, which is very well needed. So what happens when you take a good fatty food, when the pancreas has little secretion, it keeps all these things fine. More and more food accumulates which is more rich in carbohydrates and sugar levels, the pancreas really burns out, and after which it says fine, I have given him enough warning, now I will stop my little secretion and let me see what that individual does. So more and more sugar gets accumulated in your body, you turn as a type 2 diabetes at the age of 35 and 34, just not because your father is a diabetic or your grandfather is a diabetic. It is because from 20 years and 40 years, you have been playing very well with your food that has given you a price of a diabetic at the age of 45 and 50. So that it becomes little irreversible, or when you come to a consultant, we give you all the prescriptions and the lifestyle modification. It might be little medical for you, but on the other side, it is all to keep the pancreas smiling. That's all. Don't take your food that is going to be rich in sugars. Do your exercise, because they say when you bend more and you do more of physical activities, pancreas really bends. Like just patting your organ, you just pat the pancreas and say, okay, fine. Now I got the vision from my doctor. I have got that Buddha's enlightenment. Now I will not take more of my fatty food or more of sugar. I am little friendly to you. You also try to be friendly. So it takes with their oral diabetic drugs, and people are prolonged with the oral diabetic. But even with that, they take chicken this side and oral diabetic this side. Pancreas says, enough is enough for me. I will enforce, put on one time stop. Then there is no secretion from a pancreas. You are taking an artificial insulin, which is supposed to be a product that has to be manufactured and sent from the pancreas. You are taking it artificially as an injection, so that it at least converts the sugar and stores it as a glucose. That is the entire sequelae, how a pancreas is insulted and how it reacts back to you. And how to respect these two organs will be take less of fatty food, so that your workload for your liver and gallbladder and the pancreas is little less. And I told you how the fatty liver, which is a very, very common finding that we find in an ultrasound. Out of this, probably I think most of you would have taken an ultrasound on a master health check at least, and many of you would have ended up with a fatty liver as a common finding. And a consultant, if it is not a gastro consultant, would have said, nothing to worry, sir, exercise, less of fatty food, that is enough. It is not like that. It is the picture that the liver has given in an ultrasound, which means liver is a very foldable organ. It has so many hexagons in it, which has its own compartments. There is no fat deposit in the liver at all. Because of all this overactivity, what happens is fat, as I told you, keeps depositing everywhere in the body. It also deposits in the liver. So the elasticity of the liver is little lost. It becomes little foam initially. More and more fatty food comes in, more and more fatty liver as it goes, the fat really solidifies. And after one extent, the liver functioning will start coming down. And liver, mind you, as how it is it's a regenerative organ, once it stops functioning, you can never get the liver back to its original, because allopathy drug, that is a modern medicine drug, does not have the capacity and the capability to enter the liver premises at any point of time. You have to go only to your natural medicine, natural food, or probably even know the Leaf 52 or the herbal medicine is the only medicine to go and talk on your behalf, make priest eatery with the liver. Because modern medicine does not, either we cut the liver and take it up, or probably we can do a bypass, you can do any intervention, but you cannot make the liver understand the modern language at any point of time, because it understands only the system which can go in accordance with that. That is the natural system or the Indian medicine, which is the only available drug. But that too acts only in the initial phase where the liver is in the maximum period of regeneration. Once you have lost the chance, then it is fine. You will have to go only as how it dictates. And as I told you, what is the entire small intestine view, and I also told you how the small intestine pushes the entire fatty food into the next organ, and how to respect this small intestine as such. And the obesity which is now on the rise, as a bariatric surgeon, I am seeing more of obesity among the young individual from 20 to 30 years, more than 50 to 60 nowadays. I will tell you what is the reason also behind that. And this is the final organ, large intestine. And everybody thinks large intestine is the organ which is mainly meant to form the feces and to push the feces. It is not like that. It is to reabsorb the nutrients which the already small intestine has left it out. But the problem is the entire load from the small intestine, as it is it's in a very angry mood, pushes and kicks it to the large intestine and says, see, take it however you want it, you absorb it, or you don't want to push it out, that is up to you, because I am tired, I am already deposited everywhere, he is already obese, his BMI is overflowing, if possible you absorb it or else you leave it. The large intestine takes up the water and it subjects to recurrent infection, because the food that is already digested, which is in a complete shape out of small intestine, has the bacterial loads already in it. So when you take outside food and when it comes in undigested form, when it is already overburdened by the small intestine, large intestine is entirely coated with bacteria, with microorganisms, which is not supposed to be there in the large intestine. The sequelae or the complication that you suffer is the absorption which has to be there. The nutrients doesn't get absorbed out. It just passes out into your feces, and after a long run you don't find that your bowel movements are little better as you grow your age, because it takes little long time for the entire commensals to load the large intestine, and to turn pathogenic, then it has to be little eco-friendly. So you end up with recurrent infection, and your bowel movements are little bad, and your feces, as it becomes more solidified and as it becomes little more hazardous, then your large bowel cancers also are on the high. That is why the Westerners suffer more from large bowel cancer than compared to us, because their food doesn't have so much of content that Indianized tropical food is concerned. They take everything as raw meat and foods, so their chances of large bowel cancer is relatively more. And how to respect this organ? Probably eat less of outside food. Probably I used to tell in a very jovial word to my patient, in future after 10 years, probably my prescription will not be omeprazole nor pantoprazole. It will be homemade idli, homemade upma, homemade khichdi. Problem is, I have seen software engineers and young people who say that, sorry sir, I am not accessible to this homemade food, because I am working, my wife is working. Maximum thing I can take in the morning is a ready-made thing which comes into the milk, probably oats or Kellogg's or something. Afternoon, we just cannot afford this food at all. We are so compelled to take the food that is there in the canteen. Probably in the long run, probably I can start my own homemade kitchen or my own small unit. Probably patients can take that parcel from a clinic, probably, because it becomes so inaccessible, because the other food which is not very eco-friendly is just across your phone call away. That's it. You dial it, you get a pizza, and you dial it, you don't get a idli or dosa. Probably only if you frown your better off, probably you will get your homely food. That too, if you are late, probably you are done with that also. So you are compelled to take it in outside food. So you should really know what is the really importance of this particular food, that you take it. And this is the last part of your exit route. This is the where there is very less contents as you grow age, as the age progresses by 50 to 60, normal cells in your large intestine loses its normal elasticity. So it is normally, it is said that for an age group of 60 plus, the constipation is little habitual. For a diabetic, it's little more because he has already overstrained his bowel. So he will have definitely a constipated bowel if he doesn't adhere to all these things. So it is a normal routine way to move your bowel with little liquids or water in the morning and to take a fiber-rich diet, which is normally eco-friendly for your large intestine. This is the mantra. I respect, organ together says we respect. That's it. You give me respect, I will give you respect. You don't give me respect, fine. It is my way to tell you how I don't respect you. Probably I think we should all vow to this gentleman in our Indian history who was instrumental in getting Indian independence, because he was the person who changed the Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi into Mahatma Gandhi, because he was the person who scratched the self-respect of Mahatma Gandhi. If it was not happening on that particular night, probably he would have safely travelled in the first class to a client house and you would have practiced barrister and you would have ended his life in South Africa as a very, very successful lawyer. He wouldn't have minded coming back to India because he never thought it was a British colony. Probably it was in the last, his small mind he was agitating, but it was this personal instinct which scratched his self-respect. Of course, Mahatma also can really frown back when he himself can give a British very back role. You cannot expect your organ to be always eco-friendly, and they cannot be Mahatmas to you. And I can take our own Indian this thing. Probably if he would have been given good respect by the Britishers, and they would have gone to him in folded arms and they would have pleaded for some money, he would have definitely given. He wouldn't have definitely raised his voice, and he is not of that caliber. The issue was the self-respect which was scratched in the wrong time, which made him to rebel back to this British rule. And this would be the final slide for you all. However times we come to you and educate you, and we try to push in you what is good for you, what is bad for you, ultimately it is your central intelligence which has to take up the artificial intelligence of the entire organ, entire system, and you will have to walk your life, because nobody comes along with you till your end. It is up to you to have your own self-control and you walk forward. Thank you for your attentive observation.